This is the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. Our goal is to help you homeschool with confidence and joy. I'm your host, Matthew McDill. Welcome to the show, and I want to welcome again John Lewis, our co-host for today.
I made it for the third episode.
Okay, tell us what we're going to do today, John.
Okay. Well, today, Matthew, we're going to talk about the Homeschool Conversations segment. We're going to continue to talk to Rhonda and Amanda, two experienced homeschool moms and NCHE board members, and they're going to answer some questions for us today. So these are our questions for today. We're going to talk about what are common misconceptions that you may hear about the law, about homeschool law, and then what about socialization. That's a loaded subject right there for sure.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
And then introducing a new segment this week, we're going to have the Homeschool Tip of the Week.
Homeschool tip.
And so, our Homeschool Tip of the Week for this week is when you get discouraged, remember why homeschooling is awesome. And it is.
It is.
We're going to discuss 10 reasons why homeschooling is awesome, and we're going to hear from kids and parents as well about why they do it. So,
that's great.
Matt.
Thanks, John. So every state has their own set of homeschool laws, right? It's not a national set. It's every state. Fortunately for us, North Carolina has some of the easiest and simplest, the most friendly laws in the nation. Mm-hmm. There are some easier, but we have great laws. And over time, certain kinds of questions and misconceptions come up. Last time, Amanda explained the homeschool law for North Carolina, how to open a homeschool and things like that. Today, she's going to talk about how some of there's particular misconceptions. I think Rhonda's going to talk about some of the misconceptions that come up, and then Amanda's going to talk about socialization. So, as a former public school teacher, were you ever concerned about socialization?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had that roll around in our heads, and we had a lot of people put that thought into our minds as well. And I'm not going to say that we're never concerned about it, but we do things about it. There's ways to get your kids engaged with other students. And Yeah. And I have a different definition of socialization than I used to.
Okay. Well, I want to hear that after.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We'll talk about that. So let's see what Rhonda and Amanda have for us today.
Okay, so my next question is, what are some common misconceptions you may hear about homeschooling or about the law? And each of these that I'm going to mention just briefly are items that are listed currently on the Division of Non-Public Education website as recommendations, or they have been listed before. But it's important that you note that they're not a part of the law. One of them is offer instruction of at least similar quality, scope, and duration as local conventional schools. That's not necessarily bad, but one of the beauties, for me at least, in homeschooling is that we get to choose our own scope and sequence. We're not locked in to anyone else's. Another one that, like you said earlier, I might laugh about the name or whatever. Maintain at least 5 clock hours. 5 clock hours of instruction with the students each school day. And while that certainly is probably appropriate with a high schooler, if you have your kindergartner and first grader and lower elementary for 5 hours, you're both probably going to hate each other by the end of it. Just saying, right? At least that would be for me. Also, they suggest that you maintain a current daily log, journal, or lesson plan book throughout the entire school year. And that's not a bad idea. Just know you're free to do that however you want to. There's nothing in the law that instructs you in that. And as Amanda already very well said, I think about that we do have to conduct instruction for 9 calendar months. On the website, it says for 180 days. So many people have taken that they want to check off 180 days. And if you want to do that, by all means, have at it, do that. But just know you don't have to count every single day like that. You can do just the 9 calendar months with regular holidays. Also, it used to say on the website to administer a nationally normed standardized test, as Amanda said, between March and April 15th. So you might hear, I'm going to use the word, a seasoned homeschooler. I was going to say an old timer, but that would put me in that category, so I don't want that. But that they suggested you did that during a certain time. And that's really not the case. You can do it within 1 year, right? What you said, of a year of starting your homeschool. They also suggested that tests not be administered by relatives or parents or guardians. And you can administer a test. I've administered many a test. The important part is your kids know your face. So don't give them the mommy face when they pick the wrong answer, right? Tests, let's see, about tests. Oh, that's done. But let me talk about the inspection by mail program. There used to be one, and so you may hear one of us seasoned homeschoolers mention it to you that you better send in your test results in your attendance form, but they have discontinued that, and that is no longer the case. You may hear about, and this one is true, a records review meeting where you are invited to come and bring your attendance records, your vaccination records, and your nationally normed test results, but those are completely optional, and you're not required to do that. So those are just some of the misconceptions that people may have about the law.
All right. Now, I've got one of those questions that we hear all the time, and if you haven't been asked this question, you will be. It's what about socialization?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, man. We hear this all the time. So what about socialization? I mean, even here in North Carolina, where there's well over 100,000 registered homeschools. And remember, that doesn't even count the ones that are under age 7, so the ones with little guys. Even though homeschooling has been legal for well over 30 years, this is still the biggest question that gets asked. So I think we've been conditioned to think about socialization in just one way. And when we step outside of that box, it's scary, right? The unknown is unknown, and man, we don't know. We don't want to mess up our kids. So obviously we're worried about socialization. So my first answer to that question is always define what you mean by socialization. Is being in a classroom with children only the same age, usually not allowed to talk? I don't know about you, but I always got in trouble for talking. Is that really being social? I would challenge you to step outside of those preconceptions and start thinking about socialization in a whole new way. My homeschooled children have interacted with people of all ages, of all walks of life, just as we were, going to the grocery store, going to the post office, at church, running our errands in different groups. They have had so many opportunities for socialization over the years that really it's not been a concern at all. Now, of course, you want friends. Your kids want friends. Of course, you need that. If you're new to homeschooling or new to an area, it can be a challenge to find those people. So how do you find them? You have to really be intentional, I think. That's one thing that's maybe a little bit different than if you're used to your kids going to a public school and they already have this ready-made group in their class or whatever. If you're homeschooling, you do have to be intentional to locate some of that social opportunities. You might have to seek them out. Does that make sense? So here are some resources that I would recommend in finding those social opportunities. First, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you seek out an in real life homeschool group.
Yes, that's so important.
It's so important. I know Facebook or Instagram or any of the social medias are wonderful. They're wonderful ways to make connections sometimes and say, oh, this is what we have in common. But there is nothing that takes the place of that in real life socialization, both for you and your kids. I just think that's super important. If you want help finding those groups, I think this will be listed on our resources. You can go to the NCHE website and look under the local tab and community and search by your county for the groups that are in your area. Again, you can look on Facebook, look on, Google, look for a group in your area. You can use that. Another thing that I have done is ask your local librarian. A lot of times the librarian will know who the homeschoolers are and where they are. That's a good resource. And then I always say, If worse comes to worse, just go to Chick-fil-A during the day. You will always find homeschoolers at Chick-fil-A during the day.
There. That
So-
might be the best tip yet. That's great.
But really, do be intentional and seek out that in real life support. It's just invaluable.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's true.
All right. Thanks again, Amanda and Rhonda. That was fantastic.
Absolutely. That was awesome.
Let's start off with the misconceptions part. One of the things that I was thinking about is that freedom of being able to decide what to teach the kids. You know, we don't have to follow what the public school does. And sometimes
Right.
that creates stress.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's better not to. I only wanted to add one point, and that is as your kids get into high school, you have a new question. That is a transcript.
Yeah.
And so
We're
all of a sudden it does matter what's on that transcript. But that's not determined by the public school system. That's determined by the college that you might want to go to, right? So you look and see what are they looking for, and you build your transcript from there. So that's one of the differences. But the freedom from not having to think about what are they doing in public school is a good one.
Yeah, and we live in a time when resources are easy to come by online. You just you can find 1,000 different versions of a transcript in a few clicks.
Yeah.
And so we're in the process of doing that right now, building a transcript. We have
We
two
are
in high
too.
school, and so. And then the other thing that we have to think about as well is even though we don't have to register all of our test scores and all that sort of stuff with the state, we have to be able to maintain that because in years later, when they need records, high school records or any of that kind of stuff, or jobs or military, any of that kind of stuff, we need to be able to provide that. So we do have to have some planning involved and some record keeping.
Yeah, I've heard that, especially from folks who are teaching about high school especially, but any of it is just keep everything. You don't have to, but keep everything. You won't regret doing that at some point. So what did you say? What were you saying, John, about your changing definition of socialization?
So we had a very kind of one-sided view, I think, of socialization. My wife and I both public school teachers, public school products, and public university, all that sort of thing. And so, we kind of thought of socialization in the same kind of language that people used about, kids having friends. What I've noticed is I really appreciate what Amanda was saying in the video because what I've noticed is that we have to have tighter circles. And so sometimes with homeschoolers, our circles are not as broad as they were when we were in the public school system, but the relationships are not necessarily as surface either. I found in talking to my daughter, my oldest, about relationships recently, she's noted, well, you had a lot of friends. And I said, well, some of these people were just friends because I saw them every day, every year, because we sat in the same classes. But we really didn't hang out, right? We really didn't spend time together because we wanted to. It was more like we had shared experience. But in terms of socialization, Amanda hit on this too. I would say that, since when did we decide that putting 30 children that are all the same age in the same room every day for 180 days, 9 months a year, every year for 13 years with one adult equals maturity?
It's perfect. It's the perfect way
that,
to learn behavior.
Right, yeah. I mean, how else are you going to learn to be mature? But just put them with people their own age, know?
Exactly.
Every day.
I think that's right.
And I think so that's why my definition of socialization has changed is because I look at it and go, my kids don't have any problem relating to kids younger than them. They don't have any problem relating to kids older than them.
Yeah.
And they don't have any problem relating to adults. So
Well, I want to be sure and remind you that you can go to nchu.com to see the rest of this webinar. It's called Let's Get Started, How to Begin Homeschooling in North Carolina. It has 9 questions. We've shown you 2 this week, 2 last week. We're going to keep showing you some, but you can watch the whole thing at once if you'd like to see these. You can also go to nchu.com/webinars and see all of them, including that one. So, John, we're going to switch to the homeschool tip of the week. This is our new segment. We've not had this before. And one of the biggest enemies and obstacles of homeschooling is discouragement.
absolutely.
And I think Dana, my wife, would not mind at all for me to tell you that she gets discouraged. She definitely gets discouraged sometimes. And that slows her down. It distracts her. It keeps her from the calling, from the important work that's in front of her. And so what do we do about discouragement? Well, that's what we want to give you as the homeschool tip of the week, which is when you get discouraged, stop and remember why homeschooling is so awesome. Stop and think about it. Now, I sent an email out to some homeschool moms, and I says, what discourages you? So I'm going to read a little bit of this list, okay?
Yeah, let's hear it.
One is inadequacy. We've already been talking about that. Fear of failing the children, burnout, lack of support, learning struggles with kids, misbehavior and conflict with children, comparison with others. That's discouraging.
Yeah.
Not meeting others' expectations may be discouraging. When you're overwhelmed and frustrated with curriculum, that can be very discouraging. And when you're struggling with your schedule and your structure, or you have a bunch of kids and you're trying to get it all and it's not flowing, that can be very discouraging. This is just a short list because they gave me a long list. So there's a lot of discouragement going on. What I want to do now, John, is to show you a video that we created last year. And we call it I Believe in Homeschooling. And we asked homeschool students and parents, why do you believe in homeschooling? And we have this compilation of answers that is so inspiring. I love this video. I never get tired of looking at and seeing why it is that people believe in homeschooling. So let's check this out.
Awesome.
I believe in homeschooling.
I believe in homeschooling because who loves and cares about my children more than I do?
And one of the reasons that I believe in homeschooling is just a chance to laugh together as a family. It has really united us.
We also have the opportunity to have time with our children, time to learn with them and to learn from them, time to play, time to explore, and also time to build a foundation for our family and for our community and our country for the future.
I noticed that when our kids are in public school, and I'm not talking against public school, but when they were in public school, it came down to meals, bedtime, and frequently it's like we stopped knowing them, and at least to the depth that I wanted to. And now that we are homeschooling, we get to discuss things at length every single day. So it's just been a very rich pleasure.
It's a great way to keep your family together and educate your children and have a great life, and what a great way to spend time with your kids and your family.
We have a lot of fun together. I learn probably more than they do, and we are able to pursue our individual interests, and things that we want to learn about is what we choose to study.
I believe in homeschooling because it gives you the flexibility to embark on journeys that better prepare you for your future.
I believe in homeschooling because I get to stay home and I don't have pressure to get it done as fast, and it's working. Kind of smart.
I believe in homeschooling because I can work at my own pace.
Creo en la educación en casa. And I think every child is different, and every child develops different, and every child has a different need. And it's amazing, and it's a super blessing to have the opportunity to feed my child with what I think he needs. The freedom, the freedom that we have to choose when, what, where, and how is amazing.
I love homeschooling for the freedom. I love it for the independence, for the flexibility that it gives us as a family.
I like that you have more freedom and that you get to stay home and that it's more fun and relaxed.
I also believe in homeschooling because it is a great way to focus on things that my children struggle with and give them more time to work on those things, and also to give them extra time to excel in things that they're great at, and just the flexibility to make my children's education individualized for each one of them because they're all different. And along with that, we can also spend time focusing on character and maturity and different things so that my children aren't just growing up and smart, but that they also are mature, responsible, hardworking young people that we are sending out into the world.
I believe in homeschooling because it allows me to help raise up the next generation of Christ-centered, biblical-anchored world changers.
I think it's the best way to integrate faith and learning in our children.
Homeschooling allows my wife and I to instill the values that we believe in, good, wholesome Christian values that we felt wouldn't have been shared via the public school system.
So we have the opportunity to teach them truth in all areas, from history to science to our faith. We also have the opportunity to help our children learn well. This is especially true if they have learning challenges, but also just to teach them in ways that they learn best, their learning styles.
The payback has been, the reward is, my son is so independent, and the individuality, the independence, the confidence. Where else can you really spend that time with your child through their formative years all the way up and watch them becoming the adults they are becoming in society?
It allowed my kids to learn so much more. They learned how to pace themselves, how to manage their own time, how to talk to adults, how to see themselves within the world, and yet still set apart.
And I believe when my children grow up and go out, that they will also be a blessing to the world. I believe in homeschooling.
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 I am a strong believer in homeschooling.
I believe in homeschooling.
I believe in homeschooling.
I believe in homeschooling. Yo creo en educar en casa.
North Carolinians for Home Education believes that your effort to homeschool is vital to the health of your kids, your family, and our nation. We want to help you homeschool with confidence and joy by protecting your right to homeschool, equipping you with information and encouragement, and connecting you with other homeschoolers. Join North Carolinians for Home Education today. All right, our goal obviously is to inspire you and encourage you today. We use that video, as you can see, as a promotional to help people know who we are, know what we're doing. But we're showing it to you especially because it's so inspiring, encouraging, and helps you remember the why. Recently, we also put together a list of 10 reasons people homeschool. And from those and from others, we took the top 10. And so we actually also created a blog series that I'll tell you about. But let's very quickly, John, just go through these 10 for further encouragement here.
Yeah, so number one is parents determine what's taught, not the government. And that's huge because we get to decide how to integrate faith, and we heard some of those comments. All right, so number two is emphasis on learning and love of learning rather than just making the grades. Number three, individualized instruction. Number four, real life learning. That's huge because you get a lot of opportunities for that in homeschooling that you don't get in the public school,
right.
obviously.
Definitely.
Number five, academic success.
And we've been
hit
talking
on that
about
earlier.
that. Yep,
yeah,
that's right.
Number six, creativity, stimulated and encouraged. And number seven, flexibility. And we've talked to some about that. Rhonda and Amanda mentioned that as well. Number eight, positive socialization and character development. We heard some of those comments as well in the video that we just watched. Number nine, sharing of faith and values. And I really think that for the large majority of people, that's got a lot to do with why we choose to homeschool. And then number 10, strong family life and relationships. And boy, did we hear the comment on that earlier.
Yeah, that's right. You can go to nche.com/reasons. And there's a link there where you can go see the whole blog series that goes over that. Here's what we want to encourage you to do. Don't be discouraged. Sometimes we get discouraged, but stop. Watch the video again, read the series, and think about, you know what? It's hard, but it's totally worth it. I hope this show has been super encouraging to you. That's our goal.
Yeah.
And so if it's been helpful to you, maybe you can share it with others. Family and friends. You can also go to the webpage for this show, nche.com/the homeschool show, where you'll find the other episodes, you'll find the show notes and things like that. That's a great way that you can share it with others. If you have a question, if you're a member of NCHE and you have a question, you can send that question to nche.com. No, the homeschool show at nche.com. That's the email address, and any other feedback you have as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part. And until next week, continue to homeschool with confidence and joy.